I was there. And so they paid for these mock-ups, they hand them, and I take over like a year or two later, right? And I'm making this site, and they're like, here's what we have. Here's what we have on mock-ups, and it was like 5 images, and that's it. So no mobile view. I had 5 images with no font info, no color codes, and that's all I had to get. They said, make it look like this. So I was like, okay. And so that's all I really had to go off of. I had to guess what I thought was best on all the mobile views, how to collapse stuff correctly, and we're using Bootstrap, so that's helpful. But anyway, that was another hurdle of like, okay, we're going new theme, we're going new platform, so we're moving from local makefile based Drupal 7 builds to Pantheon, Drupal 8, composer based is what I went with. So we're not using that automated upstream because like we had some custom stuff we needed in there. So I went composer based. And so, lots of moving parts here. New theme, new platform. And then, so, Drupal has this pretty nice migration module, right? Where you can migrate things somewhat automatically. So we're looking into that. I go to kind of build it locally, see what I can get done, and hit the big hurdle that we all know of with migration, and that's paragraphs. So I don't know if you guys have done a migration yet, but if your site has paragraphs, it's a nightmare. And we had like all of our basic pages is a title and then a big block for paragraphs. So people build out the whole basic page using just paragraphs, basically. So tons of content. It's just going to be really, really difficult to migrate. And I, tried, and just, and again, it's just me as a dev. So I'm not able to focus on anything else while I'm trying to do this migration. And so I end up just saying, you know what, I'm like kind of looking at the difficulty that goes into manually mapping paragraphs for migrations, and just decided, let's just start this over. Like, let's start from scratch. I don't want to migrate stuff. I can also clean up things that I don't think were done correctly. Like they use taxonomy like an insane amount on the old site. And taxonomy can be really good, but they were using it in ways of like a perfect example is we have locations in our libraries. We have multiple locations, and we have that needs to be a content type. Right. So if you have a content type of locations, you can easily reference that when, say, a unit needs to be tied to a location. Well, they would have locations that way, but they would also have a taxonomy list of locations. So now, like this, if you had to update for a location, like a name change or one needs deleted, you would have to delete it from the content types as well as in paragraphs, because that's the reference list that things would look up. So there's just like, there's multiple references, and a lot of that could be cleaned up. And that was just one example. But anyway, so I said, let's just start over. Let's do things the right way. Let's set up our content types like they should be. Set up our references to be more simple and only one place, right? You update it one place and it updates everywhere. So we were able to do a lot of that the right way by restarting.
How much time did that like save you? Just making the decision to let's just start from scratch to migrating everything.
I think once I decided that way, it all happened pretty quickly. I mean, I would say within a couple weeks, we had every content type made in the new site, right? And we were waiting on the big content migration, if that makes sense. So like we had the structure. The goal is to get the structure completely there, like all the views, get all the content types. And then when we get close to launch, and we do like one piece of content for each, right? Just to kind of make sure it's showing up right, like maybe a test piece of content for each one. But when it came close to launching, we would do a full content like freeze. So like anyone that could create content, we would say, hey, stop for now because we want everything to be one-to-one. And then we basically manually moved everything over. Now there were, and I'll get to a few other things that we use to help that process. But okay, so yeah, we got paragraphs. We decided to migrate manually. Let's see. Okay, yeah, transparency through this was a biggie. So of course, we don't have clients, right, that are buying stuff for the site or whatever. We have students and faculty and staff. Those are the main people that use it, right? So those are our clients. So a biggie for us was transparency throughout this. So we had a new, oh yeah, and I might mention the dean left, like our big boss, right? He leaves like midway through this. We get a new one, which like dominoes fall all over the place for senior management team, for who's running things, what they want out of a site. So that was another big hurdle. I didn't even have that in my notes. But anyway, the new associate dean that's kind of heading this whole tech side of things, she's big on transparency and feedback system. So she's like, if a big change's going to happen, let's put it in front of everyone, let them see it, let them vote, kind of like, hey, yeah, we like this, or no, let's change this or that about it, and so we had a really cool feedback loop to where once we had like a beta site up, everyone could go to it, see how things were going, and nothing was a shock. So that was a biggie for us, is like, we weren't just going to launch and people would be like, where did my page go? Or where, like they knew as we went, here's all our changes. We wanted to make sure all the librarians and staff that had a stake in the site felt represented and heard, that their page was going to be accessible, and how to get to it and all that stuff. So that really helped us along the way. And again, to where there was no surprises when we launched. So let's see.
I do want to, let's stop there, Kyle. Does anyone have any questions? Exactly. I think that'd be good to get some Q&A if anyone has any questions.
One thing that I was kind of curious about, Kyle, this was earlier on, earlier on in the timeline that you're sharing. So you kind of share the process of like what it was like to go into an evaluation for a new platform, right? To kind of get that support on that end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, and I might have missed it, but I don't think you mentioned that, like, if there was any agency involvement there, and maybe what your process would be like. Because this is something I've always been curious about, right? Like at a university, like you're overwhelmed, or like you find yourself doing all this work that's not quite either within your scope, or that's just stacking up on top of what you should actually be doing. Mm-hmm. What is the process like? Should you look for an agency to support with projects like this?
Yeah, it's tough for me to know what some other universities do in that situation. So yeah. I know for us, we're totally separate than our university IT, and they kind of gobble up basically everybody. But the libraries is like, it's so specific. There's so many special collections and branch libraries, and so specific to libraries that we've been able to kind of stay separate and kind of do our own thing. And so that may have something to do with it. I think if we were with OUIT, they would probably want to hire out to an agency to do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But for us, we've been a pretty tech savvy group for a while. So I think they've always leaned on the side of like, let's do this ourselves. Like, yeah. And then of course, money comes into play. So we were able to get Pantheon approved because we're like, hey, we're killing like a huge amount of AWS stuff that we're paying for, right? So I think it was almost like 1-to-1 of like, okay, we're getting rid of this, but it's, going to Pantheon now, and they're providing that service. So like, that's how it worked out. But I just didn't see them also paying at some agency to do this stuff for us. So I would say partly resources, partly money. Now, I've had the thought of like, hey, could we go to an agency for a lot of these smaller Drupal 7 site migrations? But now that we're looking at it, we may kill off most of them and kind of, if they need that functionality continued, kind of morph it into one of the other sites or this current one that we have. So, I may use like the admin dashboard that's already password protected to add some things instead of a full internal site, so things like that. We may try to consolidate some of them.
What's your guys' decision-making process to like whether you keep a site or just delete a site? And I think like Jen, I know you guys are going through this whole thing right now too. So like maybe that's helpful to like some other people on here as well. Like what's your decision-making process?
Well, we're just now in the beginning of that. Now that we've finished the main library site, we're just now starting to look at some of those and have some of those meetings. So I don't quite know yet, but I know the thought. So one example is our intranet site. So that's like only for library employees. They log in and it has like announcements, job postings, tools like a travel toolkit. If they're going to travel, it has all the docs that they need. And it has a lot of uploaded documentation there because we can make it internal only. Well, again, I think all that stuff could be moved into our dashboard on our new library's Drupal 9 site. Because I'm like, people already log in. They already have roles. We can upload files there and it can all be internal. So I think, that may be one that we just kind of consolidate into our new site. And now we've eliminated the need of managing another site. Some others we've already had systems kind of replace what they do. And so, once this new system's live, we'll be able to kill this old one. And another example would be, we had exhibit sites. So we have exhibits in our libraries and we create a site for it to have a digital presence. Well, now those exhibits have been closed for years. This is just now kind of a historical record of what was there, right? And people may still go see it, see the site, but our thought was, hey, instead of maintaining a Drupal site for this, because content is not changing at all anymore, we're going to convert them to a static site, put it on AWS to serve, and it's just going to like live like that forever, right? So there's no versioning. It's just going to be a static site that puts out that info. So that'll let us kill 3 more. So, we're taking that list of like 12 probably down to maybe 1 or 2 that we have left to convert now or something like that. So I'm trying to make it easier.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know we have about 15 minutes left. Katie, you joined late, so I don't know if you can see the chat like from previous before you joined, but I will put Kyle's link to his book in there. I'll show it again. Just because, Katie, I don't know if you have any children in your life, whether nieces, nephews, your own. Bit and Byte, Hunt for Sunken Treasure. Kyle wrote it. Kyle's the author. Kyle, you worked with a local illustrator, right, in Oklahoma?
Yeah, so I wanted to find someone locally, and I started looking around, and I found this guy and this girl that's up in Oklahoma City that do illustrations for books. And I loved what they had, that different styles, and you could kind of choose. And so I started to work with him and gave him some ideas, and he ran with it and kind of created the look that we see. But yeah, and I'll kind of jump to that too. I'll jump away from Drupal 7, but going back to that work-life balance, right? So yeah, so like 6 years ago, I was reading to my son, and I was like, man, it would be really cool if I could teach him how to program but with a cool story. Like, because I'd seen a few like textbooks for kids that's like, it's just kind of like, here's how to do this, here's how to do that. And it may be colorful, but it's not like super interesting, right? And so I started looking for one, and I can't find a story adventure coding book, right? And so I was like, well, I guess I could just make one, And so I started just like a Google Doc of, writing down ideas. And that was about 6 years ago. And then it kind of actually writing the book really only took a few months. So I kind of like knocked out some ideas of what, problems I wanted in there, and then kind of built the story around them, and then just kind of went with that. But then the biggest hurdle was working with the illustrator. So like that just took a long time. Like he was a teacher, so he's been out of school. So like school session, he's super busy. And so just like it would be like a month would go by, and like he'd give me a little update, or in a few more months, here's some sketches, and I'd approve them. And then so it just kept on dragging on,
Long process, yeah.
But I knew I wanted to just self-publish. I kind of found out later, if you want to go through a publisher, you submit your manuscript of like just the words, and then they pick an illustrator for you. Well, I kind of already found the look of it and all that, and so I'm like, you know what, I'll just self-publish, and I'm not in this for the money. Like, I just wanted to write a cool story for my kids, right? And so I was like, hey, if I get a little gas money on the side, that's great. But I just thought it would be a really cool thing to kind of have that legacy, and then say I'm a published author. I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, and timeline wise, this is kind of where it gets crazy. We get to the beginning of this year, and we had planned on launching our site in June. So I think it was June, late June was the idea. And so I had the structure all in place. We're going to start moving a lot of content. So me and the team, we're going to sit down for like 2 weeks and assign all this content and really just start putting it in there. And so also on the side, I start teaching a 6-month boot camp. So as if that
was at University of Minnesota, wasn't it?
University of Minnesota. Yeah. So someone had reached out to me, hey, we need an instructor. This is the kind of the last part of or the fall into winter of 22. Is that right? Yeah. Fall and winter of 22 into early 23. And so it's 3 times a day or 3 times a week, and like 4.5 to 5 hours 3 times a week in the evenings. So I'd work all day. 5:30 would hit, my boot camp would start, and I would talk for like 4.5 hours, and it was a lot. So it was a lot. Really,
in addition to writing a book, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the book kind of went on pause because I'm 3 days a week hardcore. Like, family doesn't see me 3 days a week, and so anyway, that was but it was a really neat experience. It was like getting into React, Node, all this stuff that I didn't even know React. So I'm learning as I'm teaching it, and it ended up being a great experience. I learned a lot. So like now I actually made the Bit and Byte website in React. So I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, so again, balancing work life, right? Or work and home life was a lot. So the class ends like February 23rd. I take a week off of work because it's the week before we're about to start the big migration of content. So I'm like, I'm going to chill. The class is done. I'm going to play some games, like a Destiny 2 expansion came out, and I was going to play a bunch of video games.
Yeah.
And February 26th, so 3 days later, F2 tornado hit our house. So in Oklahoma. So it's just a part of the deal. But I have been here since I was a baby, and we've never been hit directly. We've had a lot of close calls, but never directly. And my wife and I had just 15 years of basically saving and planning. Finally had just built our house. We had only been in it a year. And so, it hit, and I can share super quick.
Because I know we're running out of time, but it was Chero. You can share your screen real quick. No, go ahead.
Start to see this.
I mean,
it's a present.
It was super tough to see all the pictures and stuff, but you're also good too. You don't have to share, Kyle, if you don't want to.
Yeah, that is going to take too long. Sorry, I didn't have the right permissions on it. But anyway, lots of damage. It ended up being $100,000 in damage. And so this hits, the 26th. This throws off everything. Like, the book's got to wait. I just get done with the class, but the site is like, we're about to start migrating. And so I had to delay that even a couple weeks. Because in this process, I'm now the team lead. And I gotta handle the house. So we had, I had to do a completely new roof, new siding, 5 windows. I have like 5 acres, and so the woods was just devastated. There's so many trees down, like 100 something trees at least, and so it was a big ordeal. And so anyway, like life comes at you fast, right? I had to, and then then go back to work, really start working on the site, and that's where I really had to start trying to separate work and life, right? The house is in shambles. I can live in it, but I'm also trying to migrate the site. And but anyway, I was able to get through it. We had a great migration. The beta site went great. We opened it up to students as soon as the school year started. Everyone really liked it. It went really smoothly. And then we finally launched. I think we ended up launching in July. We delayed it just a little bit. Launch went great. Everyone overall really likes it. Some people are like, "Oh, this moved," or I don't like changes, right? You're always going to get that. But overall, really positive feedback, and it's been going smoothly ever since. So
awesome. Nice.
I just yeah.
Well, one thing, because like I said, I know we're out of time. Is there one piece of advice, Jen, as they're doing their own site thing right now with the upgrades? One piece of advice that you have for kind of upgrading from 7, or just in general upgrading advice, dealing with the whole project with a small team?
The big time saver for us, like I really liked the idea of us starting from scratch, because it didn't put us in a box, like I said, of like, if things were done incorrectly before, they were going to be done the same if we migrated directly. Like, so I was like, you know what, we can clean this content type up, or how we reference this, or how, so we did a lot of cleanup while we did that, right? We had to make some decisions. Like, we knew I didn't have to bring over all the users, right? So like, if a student logs in, they're now a user in Drupal. And so we had, like, on the old site, we had like, I can't remember, it was like 100,000 users on the user list or something like that, because of students that had been logging into the site forever. Well, most of those are probably gone now, right? So we're like, let's just move over employees. And then like, so if a student logs in to where they can save favorites or like reserve a room, that's the main reason we log in, it'll create a new user for them, and they're fine. Like, so, cutting out some things like that, we knew we didn't have to move everything. And then also, we did use feeds. So I would highly suggest feeds. If you don't use migration directly, feeds, you can build out even just a specific type. So what I did is I used views bulk export on Drupal 7 and exported a big long list, like we had e-resources. So it's like a title and a link and like a description, and that's it. So it was a super simple data type. Exported it into CSV on Drupal 7, used feeds and imported it into my new content type. And so it did, like, there's like 800 of them. It did those pretty dang easy. Like, my only issue was some encoding with like special characters in the title, right? There was some weird encoding in there, but that helped a lot. So if you have a simple type like that, export it CSV, use feeds to import it, that helped. But yeah, the others, we divvied up with people that can know how to do content, had a spreadsheet of you do these, and kind of went through and just did data entry for a couple weeks. And, by the end, we had a full functioning new site with all the same content. So
there you go. Step by step, just do it step by step, one thing at a time. It seems like.
Yeah. And then we treated almost like Drupal's treating like versions now, right? So the old site, we moved to legacy.libraries, right? And so we put a banner that said, this is now out of date, but if you need any access to it, like, it's going to be here until, I think we said, the end of last month or something. And then on the new site, it's like, if you can't find what you're looking for, here's a legacy site. So like, we gave people a chance to kind of see old stuff and move, like, because they have some favorites and stuff that we couldn't move. So they could reference the old one and go, but then now we're going to lock down the old one. So we kind of forced people to use the new one. But we gave them 3 or 4 months for that process to transition over.
Awesome.
So,
Cool. Awesome. Well, Kyle, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I'm going to share the book again just for the recording. Bit and Byte, Hunt for Sunken Treasure. Can't speak this morning. But yeah, Kyle, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, this is like, it's great to guys have you guys on. This is a fluid idea. I think for the next time, actually, I've already talked with another person. We're gonna have a co-host, music. So yeah, we hope to have more people on. I didn't even realize that Monday was a holiday. That's probably why we don't have as many people on. But I thank you guys for coming, and thank you, Kyle, for sharing. And yeah, if you guys have children in your life, buy the book. Yeah.
Thank y'all so much for joining and listening, and yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. Let's see, I can put my name on there, or my link on there.
Oh, Katie, you'll get a card or something. There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Do you prefer Amazon sales, or is there a website where I can buy it directly, or where do you?
Yeah, so my website just links to the book on Amazon. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, fun to hear your story. And Patrick, if you're open to it, maybe we can invite some more folks next time. That might.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I just want to continue to keep growing. Didn't have any expectations for this first one besides just introducing Kyle and highlighting Kyle. So, yeah, we're starting with the group, and we'll continue to grow it. So yeah, Katie, we should definitely talk about it. So.
That'd be great.
And so good news to finish. We are completely fixed on the house. So in the past few weeks, we just finished everything, and so it looks like nothing happened. And I have two neighbors that aren't as lucky. My two neighbors across the street had to bulldoze their houses completely. So it did that much damage. They are now rebuilding, and then the other couple's super old, and they just sold it. They just sold their lot and moved to next to their kids. So it was it was a crazy ordeal. Going through trying to get the book published, tornado, and building the site all at once. But now I feel like all the dust is settled. I'm able to breathe, relax a little bit, and so things are all good.
Sweet. There you go, man. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. And I only recorded half the session. I always do that with recording stuff. I always forget to record. But we will definitely make sure to record these fully going forward. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend.
All right. Nice to
Thank
meet
you,
you all.
Kyle, for presenting.
I'll meet y'all.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. See ya.